So today I just want to take you through a few of the angle basics. Now, these seem quite straightforward at first, but when presented in an exam, quite often people get confused between having to name an angle and having to classify an angle. So I've been teaching maths for 10 years, and the amount of times where I've seen students be asked a question like, name this angle here, they would say it's obtuse. Okay, that's not the name of the angle, that's the classification of that angle. Okay, so a couple of little things to start off with. Okay, the arm of an angle is called the ray. Okay, so this angle has two rays, here and here, and a vertex. So a vertex is just a really fancy name for a corner. All right, so you can see I have three labels on my angle. I've got an A up here, a B down here, and a C over here. Now there's a few things to note, okay? This ray here is called AB because it extends from A to B. We can also call that ray BA, doesn't really matter, okay? This ray, funnily enough, is called BC because it extends from B to C, can be called CB as well if you really want. Now, the vertex, the name of that vertex is B, okay? That's the label that is at the vertex, so that is the name of that vertex. Now, there's three ways we can name an angle, and two of those ways are better than the other one. All right, and I'm going to show you why. So, the simplest way to name an angle is to call this angle B, because that's where the vertex is, all right? So, we can call this angle B. However, I'm going to suggest you don't get in a habit of doing that. I'll tell you in a minute why. Another way we can name the angle is ABC. So we can call it angle ABC because it goes from A to B to C. The last way we can name it is angle CBA. It's the same thing, it's just going back in the other direction, CBA. Now, either of these are okay, all right? It doesn't matter which one of those you choose. However, you just need to make sure that B is in the middle of your name because it's the vertex, okay? Now, the reason I don't want you to get into the habit of just naming an angle B. All right, I'm just going to do a quick little sketch on the side here. Say I've got two lines that make four angles, actually. And I'm going to call that A, B, C, D, and I'm going to call this point E. All right, so if I asked you to name that angle there, and you named it an angle E, there's a problem, because this could be named angle E, this could be named angle E, and this could also be named angle E. So what makes this angle down the bottom different from the others is we would call it angle DEC. Okay, that's why it's not the best habit to be getting into to name it just based on the single letter. Okay, use the 3-letter naming method. All right, so that's naming an angle. Then it's super duper important that you understand the meaning of the word perpendicular, because that pops up a lot in mathematics from this point forward, okay? So what's special about perpendicular lines is that they meet at right angles. So perpendicular lines are two lines that meet at an angle of 90 degrees. Now, we signify perpendicular lines with the little square in the corner, okay? We all know that the little square in the corner tells us that it is a right angle of 90 degrees, okay? Then we have parallel lines. Now, parallel lines, most people understand, are lines that never ever meet, okay? And they also have the exact same distance between them at all points. Now, that's something that is quite straightforward, okay? But something that tells you lines are parallel without you having to measure them, okay, is this little notation here, which is an arrow pointing in the same direction on each of the lines that are parallel to each other. As soon as you see those two little arrows on lines, and they must be matching, Okay, that means that you are being told those lines are parallel. You don't have to try and work it out or explain why they're parallel. You're just being told that they are parallel. Okay, so then another term that I want to introduce you to is called the transversal. Now, the transversal is essentially any line that crosses one or more other lines. So trans means cross. Okay, so it just means that the transversal is this line that goes across the two parallel lines, and we will see parallel lines in a transversal in much more detail a little bit later on. Okay, we'll just get through these basics first. Okay, and then we might be asked to classify angles. So classifying angles is asking you what type of angle is it. Now, all this stuff you should be pretty familiar with from primary school. But it is important that you understand the notation that you should be using for each of these. And I probably haven't left myself quite enough room, so I might just go down the bottom. So you'll need to listen as I am talking about each one. So an acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. Okay, so it's an angle of any size less than 90 degrees and obviously greater than 0. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. It's I guess the angle you most commonly would be used to seeing. Okay, then a right angle is exactly 90 degrees. Now, if I've got an angle like that, it looks like it's 90 degrees. I haven't measured it with a protractor. Okay, chances are it's not 90 degrees because I didn't use rulers or a protractor. Okay, but if I see an angle like that and it has a little square in the corner, it's automatically 90 degrees. Whether or not the drawing is correct, you are being told that angle is 90 degrees. Okay, then we have an obtuse angle. So that's any angle between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So essentially, that's going to look something like that, all right? Where we've got our arc in the center there. So you can see it's like a right angle that's been opened up a bit, all right? Then we have a straight angle, which is exactly 180 degrees. So it's just going to look like a straight line. All right. In any worksheet or exercise that you're given or an exam, you're being told you're talking about an angle because it'll have something like that on it. It may have something like that on it. Okay, then we get to reflex angle. Now I'm going to go back to where I drew my acute angle, because reflex angles and acute angles often look very, very similar, okay? Except where my arc was in the, I guess, the smaller part of the acute angle, in a reflex angle, which is between 180 and 360 degrees, my arc is actually on the outside, okay? So it means the angle has gone beyond straight and it's coming back around onto itself. And then my last one is an angle of revolution, or a revolution angle, which is exactly 360 degrees. So if you're seeing it in a drawing, it's going to look kind of like a lollipop. Okay, it just looks like a straight line, but what shows you that it is signifying a revolution is that the circle goes all the way around, because of course there are 360 degrees in a circle. Hopefully that clears up some of the basics for you. Remember, please be really careful when you are naming angles and use the preferred 3-letter naming method where possible. If it was helpful, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you get notified when I upload new videos.